Welcome, everybody, to a conversation that I have been waiting to have. I'm so excited. Dain, thank you for saying yes to exploring phenomenal failures with me.
Oh, I'm your best guy for that. It's kind of like I made a life study of it for the early part of my life. So you're welcome. Oh, I don't need that. And I want to explain in the back, all of our plants and trees are wrapped because of the freeze in Houston. So that's why it looks like aliens are coming to invade, or that we had a really interesting snowfall.
Or a late night party that you didn't feel like covering up or cleaning up yet.
Exactly.
Just cover it. It's fine. You often say that you've made more stupid, dumb choices than most people have made choices. And what I get is a lot of people see your life now and they're like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So having the privilege of being your little sister and growing up with you, there's one thing that has always inspired me looking at what you set out to choose and be and go to college for and target, and then where we are now, and how there's this one story that I wanted to play with you today about. It's about when Dr. Dain Heer, the co-creator of Access Consciousness, the author of Being You Changing the World, the guy who brought ESB and SOP to the world, started a power washing business. And so I would love to really dig into that, because you had gone away to UC Santa Barbara. I remember you coming back and doing City College a little bit. And in that time, moving back in at home. And then you discovered power washing, and a lot of people around the world might not know what that is. So I would love for you to share, what is power washing, Dain, and why are you so excited to try it?
Aren't you glad you asked that question? First of all, I want to say it's all those terrible choices that got me to where I am today. So every single one of them played a part. So there is no such thing as a wrong choice or a bad choice. There is only choice. And that can sound easy if you feel like you're in the middle of a tornado of shitty choices. I'm just trying to present this as the awareness that if we shift our perspective and change our judgment of our choices, it changes the whole landscape, because it's our judgment of the choices we've made and are currently making that creates us continuously making choices to judge.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a big thing. And by the way, since I just said that, I could perceive all of that come up in people's worlds that are watching. So I'm going to use something called the clearing statement, because I'm willing to be weird as fuck. But I'm also happier than fuck. So there you go. So everything that brought up for all of you, will you now let it go? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. See, because ideally, if I could, with every conversation I had, like every interview, everything I've done, podcast wise or otherwise, I would use a clearing statement so that it's not just a conversation that gets you mentally thinking and mentally freer, hopefully, but energetically free, because that's where the actual freedom is. And I know that now. So, anyway, I just wanted to point that out, which is why I'm using the clearing statement. So what happened was I graduated from college. I came home for a little while, and then I was like, oh my God, I hate it here. I need to go back. And one of the things I loved was doing personal training. And I was working at Gold's Gym, being a trainer, and I loved it. So I went and buried my head in a gym for a year. And if you see some of the old pictures, you'll know that I was using the gym. And yet I knew I wasn't creating a future. But while I was there, I met a chiropractor. Well, I started seeing a chiropractor. He came to the gym, started seeing him for my shoulder pain, and it started changing things. And I was in his waiting room one day, and I saw this book, and it talked about how you could change all of these things using weird stuff, but everything from depression to HIV. It was like they could create some change, and I was like, this is what I want to do, And it literally was. It was this combination of my body starting to feel better, but also then this awareness of this change is possible. And I just got so lit up. I'm like, I'm going to be a chiropractor. So I come home, and chiropractic school was something over the 3 years, it was projected to be about $100 and some $1,000. And I knew I could do student loans for a lot of it, but I thought to myself, okay, what I tried to do is I tried to get a job as a waiter and a bartender, and nobody would friggin' hire me. So I went, okay, what can I do that I might be able to do while I'm doing this chiropractic school that would allow me to actually create a lot of money? And I really thought maybe what I could do is whatever this, so sorry, my ADHD is kicking in big time. So I knew a guy who was a pressure washer. And he's like, hey, you could do this. He's like, and this guy is not intelligent. I mean, like not, certain people, you're like, you wouldn't have looked at him and gone, hey, he's really brilliant. You looked at him and you would have gone, wow, this is amazing that he's doing this. And I figured, well, if he can do it, why can't I? And then what I thought was he was making so much money that I thought, and by the way, don't do anything for money. You can do it for a little while to get yourself out of pain and suffering. Like if you need to do something for the money to pay your rent and eat and that sort of thing, do it. But don't plan on that being your future, because the people watching this can't do anything just for money long term. But that's us. And often it will turn out the way this turned out for me. So I ended up getting a loan. I got a loan, and I think you reminded me, I got a loan from our grandmother to pay the down payment for this other loan for this pressure washing thing. And it ended up being like $20,000, right? So here I am, I'm starting in debt, $20,000, hoping to make $100,000 in the next year to be able to pay for chiropractic school. And it's interesting how one of the things I've learned about creating our lives and choices is be willing to choose, be willing to screw it up, because at the very least you'll get more awareness. And my point of view is all's well that ends in more awareness. And the other thing though is there's certain times where we have, I guess I would say, like fantasies or delusions or empty dreams. The dream you want to follow is the dream that lights you up so much, and it's not a solution to a problem. Because one of the things we do is, in an attempt to solve our problem, in my case, my financial problem, I went with an apparent fantasy of I'll be able to make all this money instantaneously, which is what a lot of people do when they get involved in network marketing businesses and that sort of thing. And then it fails and they wonder why. It's like the dream you want to follow is the one that lights you up, the one that, and once again, is not about solving the problem in front of you. Because the way to solve the problem is to get more present and ask some questions like, what's it going to take to change this? What can I choose? What can I be? What can I uniquely do to create a different outcome and a different result? And there's a lot more elements of this, but it all falls under the element of choice and the fact that we actually have choice. And so, but most of us have been given so many skewed perspectives of what choice is. And also, there are so many promises out there in the world of, I have a better way of solving your problem. Just do my thing. Ha ha, you will have no problems after doing my thing. No, any choice you're making from that perspective is temporary at best, and usually will implode on itself, because your point of view creates your reality. When your point of view is there's someone out there that's a source, then you end up creating a furtherance of that point of view. So what we talk about in Access is you are the source. Like, don't follow me. Don't follow any Access facilitator. Follow you and trust you. You are the only one who knows what's true for you. And so anyway, so I get myself in debt $20,000 at the outset. Okay. And now I'm trying to create a business that I have no idea how to do this business. And the guy was like, hey, call me. Oh, by the way, he made a commission on the machine that I got sold. Oh, didn't think about that. So I got rid of my Toyota Supra that I'd had since I was 16. I think I was 24, 25, something like that, and sold it for a really low price. Guess who I sold it to? Oh, the guy that got me involved in the pressure washing business. Anybody seeing a theme here? No, he wasn't out to take advantage of me. He was there to solve my problem, not create more and more. I buy this truck. It's the only truck I can afford, and I have to lay out more money for the truck. I don't know if you know anything about me or see anything here, but I'm not a truck guy. So I buy this truck that, by the way, the one I could afford was way underpowered for towing this big pressure washing unit that was connected to a trailer. So here I am. You can just sense the joy oozing from my world, right? And here's the other thing is what's true for you makes you lighter. A lie makes you heavier. From the moment, and here's the other, goodness, there's so many elements of choice. Okay. Choice, there's so many things that nobody ever tells us, and I wish more people that have choice, I wish more people would have honest conversations like this, about the energetic elements so we can see what works and what doesn't. Anyway, that's me pontificating, climbing on my little happy soapbox of possibilities. So I'm here, and the other thing about the choice is it's like when you choose something and instantly it feels like all the wind comes out of your sails, don't do it. Okay? Because what you're going to do is because what happens is there's a difference between choice and conclusion. What I was functioning from was conclusion. This will solve my problems. And by the way, if that's your conclusion, you're not going anywhere you want to go. Please just acknowledge that and don't make yourself wrong for it, though. But have enough of a sense of kindness to you and having your own back to be willing to change that choice. Because that's the other thing about choice. You can choose again in the next 10 seconds. You can choose again based on new information. God, there's so many things. I'm blown away by how many things there are in like 3 minutes, right? You can choose again in the next 10 seconds based on new information. But here's another thing about choice is you need to know, here's a big thing about choice most people don't know, is sometimes you have to choose something for yourself to be aware of what the effect will be. And being aware of what the effect will be is not cognitive, it's energetic. So when you choose, like when I went, I'm going to rent this. Oh, and guess who I went for advice to? My father, who had already killed 2 businesses and was working on his 3rd to kill. I went to him. Oh, and he went, oh, I think it's a good idea. And what he was really saying was, I have no idea, but if you're going to fail, you might as well fail just like your good old dad. Oh my goodness. So anyway, from the moment of choosing, it felt like the wind went out of my sails. When I signed the loan paper, I was hyperventilating. I spent the next almost year hyperventilating most of the time, like literally almost all the time. And so I chose to do this because it was going to solve my problem. Had I had this one awareness of if you choose something and it feels like it gets really contracted and heavy, stop, look at what you just chose and go, do I really want to go here? And then ask yourself this question. This is one of the greatest questions you can ask for any choice, because people ask me all the time, how do I know what to choose? And I give them this answer, and sometimes they're like, but I don't know which of those. But the question is, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? Not what will it look like, not what will it be like? In other words, and if I don't choose it, what will my life be like? In other words, if I choose this, if I go down this road, will my life go like this and expand? Or will my life go like this and contract? And those are the only two that's the only awareness you need, expansive or contractive. And some things are so expansive or so contractive, it's so easy to tell. And people will say, but I don't know how to do this. I'm like, I know, it takes practice. And the thing that doesn't allow you to know how to do it is, number one, you've never been educated on what choice is. Number two, you've never been educated. Number two, just in case, number one, no, sorry, pocket pod, sorry, bad facilitator. We've never recognized that choice is actually energetic. And so when we choose, what we're doing is we're bringing another universe of energies into our lives. That universe of whatever that is, in this case, pressure washing, a universe of all kinds of things that are going to interact with my universe energetically and create effects. Well, okay, that's why we choose things, for the effect they will create. Isn't that weird? We choose things for the effect it will create. And yet most of us are walking around going, I've made so many bad choices. Yeah. So one of the things we do in Access is change the underlying root thing that makes you want to make bad choices. And bad is your judgment, not mine, by the way. Okay. And let's just understand we have that in our points of view. So had I had that awareness, I would have made a different choice, but I didn't even know I could choose again. I felt like I was living somebody else's autopilot life of failure. And if I look at the business, et cetera, with our family business, as you know, that failed, and the businesses, etc. It was like I was living somebody else's autopilot life. And this is the other thing that keeps us from knowing what choice is, because we've learned to live somebody else's autopilot life. And it takes some energy, it takes some effort to break out of that, to have choice, to have true choice. Okay. Because autopilot is not true choice. Autopilot is functioning from the autopilot. Okay. So, but I do want to point one other thing out, and then I will let you talk. Sorry, this is just such a juicy topic. You know, it's just like, oh my goodness. And I'm so glad we're having this conversation. And I hope everybody in the fucking world watches it to get the awareness. But here's the interesting part. And I didn't realize that I had this awareness, is when I made this choice and my universe caved in, and it stayed caved in for a long, long time. I, lived that, whatever. What I didn't realize until this moment was 24 years ago, 23, 4 years ago, when I asked my girlfriend at the time to marry me, it had the exact same energy. Because it had the exact same energy and I had access tools, I started asking questions. Thank you for your gratitude, by the way. It's so wonderful to know that this is contributing to people, because could you imagine, making some really stupid choices, but going, okay, here it is. So that at least can contribute to other people too. But I started asking questions about the engagement, and this was many years after the pressure washing thing, but it was because it had a similar energy of destroying my future that I started asking questions, and finally was willing to break myself out of that particular autopilot and make a different choice that I am so grateful for, and also so grateful to the access tools and my friend Gary Douglas, the founder, because he was the one asking me the questions so I could get to my awareness of what was going on.
Yeah. Well, I love that you bring Gary up, because just recently, this is the thing I wanted to throw in, was that on the Profit class, Gary said something that you guys have been saying for a very, very, very long time, but you get it when you get it. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he's like, you guys keep using choice to try to make something that's not working better rather than choosing something different. And I looked out at my life and I was like, oh my God. Like, I have been doing that dynamically, trying to, like, if a class isn't creating that I'm creating, I've been like, okay, who do I add or what do I add? Instead of just going, does this class actually want to be created? And asking those questions, and what can I choose that's so different, that isn't trying to always fix the thing that isn't working. And so I'd love to explore a little bit of that with you, because I also see a lot of us, myself included, getting the access tools and then trying to use them in reverse, like trying to use them to fix my past so that I can deserve the future that I'm asking for. So with this story of you in power washing, and by the way, power washing is this big machine where you go and wash the sides of buildings or semi trucks late at night when the businesses are closed.
Or you wash the sidewalks in front of a 7-Eleven for $75. You wash parking lots. My most lucrative contract was washing recycling trucks, 18-wheelers, and getting paid extra to wash the engine. Now, by the way, if you're a pressure washer, I'm not knocking you, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not knocking you at all. I am grateful for what you do. I want to acknowledge that too.
Yeah, totally. And so in classes, I've said this to people who didn't know this story, but like, what if the things that actually didn't work out weren't supposed to, because there's more for you, and that the awareness that we get, like you said, this isn't it, maybe what else is possible? Because what if Dain, everybody who on here right now, Dain, you can close your ears if it's too much, but all of us whose lives who have been absolutely changed by this man's choices to show up and to invite us to a different possibility, go to the place where Dain stayed and steadfast with his power washing business, and look at how the world is. Like, I think of that all the time when something fails for me. I'm like, okay, like, I owned a hair salon for 10 years and I didn't understand 15 years, why I didn't have more hair salons around the world. And my idea of having a chain salon that was going to change the beauty industry didn't come to fruition. But I know now that it actually gave me a lot of awareness of what I can be, and also what else is possible beyond owning a hair salon. So I would love to explore more with you of like, how do we explore what choice is in creating the future rather than fixing the past.
I love that. And I want to take a total side note here to acknowledge something that we've been trying to give people awareness of, which is a side note I wish I didn't have to say, but there are, because there was a comment in there, is this you or is this a fake account? Most likely a fake account. And thank you for following your knowing. I wish everybody would. There are lots of people. We must have arrived and hit the big time, because there are people who create fake accounts pretending they're my assistant. There's one about reset that has the big red reset button in it. That's a fake one. And what they do is they friend you, and then they start being friendly with you. And you're like, oh my God, I'm talking to Dr. Dain. If you're talking to Dr. Dain, number one, I've got really good English and these people don't. Okay. Number two, I will never ask you for money. And number three, I will never make reservations at something like the castle or something else. And I will never charge you to be part of my inner circle. Okay. And my point of view is, if you work for me, I should be paying you, not the other way around. So please follow your knowing, follow your awareness. What's true makes you lighter. And please report these fuckers so we never have to deal with them again. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you. That is a choice I'm asking for. Okay, good. So please really follow your knowing. I've got 2 official Facebook accounts, Dain Heer and Dr. Dain Heer. I've got 1 official Instagram account, which is Dain Heer. And I've got 1 YouTube account, which is Dr. Dain Heer. And I probably have a TikTok, and I probably have a Twitter, but yeah. So those are the only ones that will be contacting you. Okay. Please follow your knowing. Okay. Thank you. And thank you. So this idea of, this is so, I cannot tell you, I get so excited, and I get so like, it's one of these things where I so want people to get it, you know what I mean? Because I so want myself to get it too, you know, like quicker, actually. So let me tell you a little story about that might illustrate the point, because I think we've all got something like that in our lives that we never acknowledged could be so different. So I was a chiropractor, okay, and I had this tiny little office, and I was fine with it. It was small enough to fit my life at the time, okay? And then I found access. And then at a certain point, I had done something the lady didn't like. She was renting me the office, and she's like, you need to be out of here in 30 days. And like, so mean. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, sorry. And so I was looking for an office. I was looking for an office for like 3 weeks, and another week. Okay. And Gary was out of town, and I didn't want to talk to him, whatever. And finally he came back into town. We were having lunch. I'm like, Gary, I've been looking for an office for 3 weeks. I'm like, this one is too expensive. This one, the lease is too long. This one is blah, 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 blah. Everything was not quite just right. You know, I'm a little Goldilocks chiropractor. And he looks at me and asked me a question that changed my future. He said, do you truly want to be in an office? And I went, no. I mean, it was so clear. It was plain as day. But I never considered the possibility, because you may be noticing a theme here, kids. I, like you, learned to live on the autopilot of life, doing things the way they should have been done, while always having way more fun not doing things the way they should be done, but not allowing myself the permission to not do things the way they should be done. So all of you who are out there that can relate to that, and all of you who are out there that are like, dude, everything that brings up for you, will you now let it go, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. Okay, so once again, I'm desiring to create change here, not just awareness on this level too, the underlying energetic level. So with that, what I was trying to do is I was trying to see who and what I could change, like if I could bargain with the real estate agent, right? If I could bargain, and what Gary gave me was the perspective of do something different. And this is such a thing, because one of the lies that we have all bought is that we need to change every limitation of our past to have a different future. No, we don't. We just need to choose a different future. Now look at how interesting this is, because what happens when you choose that different future, and well, there's elements of that, but I think it's a little beyond where we can go. But let's look at it this way. When you choose a different future, when you go, okay, I desire something different, I'm going to do something different, even if I don't know what it is. Or maybe there's something out there and you're like, I would like to do that. And it's one of those things of the dream, quote unquote, that lights you up. Okay, I'm going to do this. Well, guess what? You've still got your entire past that you have made real. So you still think it's real. It's going to come with you. But what if that's okay? In other words, and the whole thing is not going to come with you, because once you make a choice for a different future and you're really congruent with that choice, that's another thing that takes us a while to get to. So I can't really quite go into it here. But once you make a choice and you're congruent with that choice, what happens is a lot of the past can't follow you anymore. Okay. It's like you're differently. Okay. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, check out quantum physics. It's awesome. Okay. Because you bring in what you vibrate like, basically, if you will, what you're willing to be. And so you change that. So a lot of your past falls away. But what happens is when you make that different choice and you start on that road, now you're going to have stuff come up that's not congruent with that choice. And now, well, especially if you have access tools, I don't know what anybody else does with anything. The only thing I know is this shit works. Okay. But with access tools, as an example, now this stuff comes up, the yuck, stuck, and what the fuck comes up, maybe, and it looks exactly like it did before. It feels exactly like it did before. It pushes all the same buttons. And do not make the mistake of thinking, oh my God, I'm in the same place I was before. This isn't going to work either. Your point of view creates your reality. When you come to that conclusion, you kill this new future. Instead, do this thing that I've been trying to suggest. Ask a question. What is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? If so, how do I change it? What question do I need to ask to get the awareness I need to not be the effect of this? What tool can I use? One of the things Access gives us is a lot of tools. Okay. What do I need to POC and pod? That clearing statement thing that I've been running goes back to the point of creation of the limited point of view that create this thing being able to exist, period, and ask it to undo using the consciousness of you. So instead of going to the yuck, stuck, and what the fuck, and oh my God, I'm in the same place. No, you are not. If you are making a different choice for a different future, you are not in the same place. But what has to happen, see, the life and living that you create is all the points of view that you're congruent with and all the choices that you're congruent with. So what's happening now is you're getting a chance to let go of this limited point of view that you're not congruent with. Can you tell I'm half Italian? I'm not really, but I should be. I should be like 90% Italian. Anyway, with your hands, like, hey, that's all boy. So what's happening is you're getting a chance to let go of this really stuck, heavy baggage you're not congruent with. So like, I don't know, like, for example, I bought the house next door because they had this noisy friggin' machine that I'd hated for 10 years. And so it came up for sale and they wanted too much money. And all of this stuff came up that I haven't seen for years about like a particular financial reality that was yuck, stuck, and what the fuck, because we both grew up with a lot of weird shit financially, right? And we had parents who were insane, like dumb financially. But that's probably what got me into the pressure washing business, which is why we're having this conversation. So, hey, was it so bad? So anyway, this came up. And rather than going oh goodness, rather than going into the same thing that I did many years ago when this came up, I looked at it and went, holy shit, you're still here? I thought I dropped you like a hot rock a long time ago. And I went, okay, what is this? And it's like, hey, all kinds of yucky stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I've seen you before. Okay, what is it? Okay, I get the energy of it. What do I do with it? I'm like, oh. And I asked this one question. Who does this belong to? And it lightened up. And I went, oh my God, this was an entire financial structure that I bought from family members when I was a little kid. And I still had some part of it there. And so I went, oh, well, everything I did to buy that is mine. I'm letting that go, puck and pot all that, return that shit to sender with consciousness attached. And I was like, oh, and instantaneously I felt different about the whole transaction. And this is how you know access tools are, well, this is how you know any tool is working, because what's true makes you lighter. As you get to more of what's true, you get lighter. Thing about access tools is it happens instantaneously for a lot of the things that we clear when there's something right in front of us. So in letting that go, what happened was I moved forward with far more ease into the future. Now, had I not let that go, I would have still moved into the future, because when I made the choice, I asked, what will my life be like in 5 years if I do this? And it was like, and then what will it be like if I don't? Not much change, a little lessening, but not nearly like this. And I got to say, buying a second house kind of surprised me. And it's, my guest house is more expensive than my primary residence. What the fuck? Now, here's an interesting thing about that is a lot of people, as we got toward the end of last year and going into the beginning of this year, there was such a sense of financial stress in the world. And I've been perceiving it too. And it is, and for a little while I was trying to buy into it. And then it took me a while to buy out of it, to have the space around it that was possible. But what gave me the freedom to know that this choice that I'm making that looks insane from the entire outside world, okay? And this is the thing about not following the autopilot, but also not following what you're supposed to do because you're supposed to do it because somehow that will turn out right and not wrong, and turn out well and not poorly. All of those are judgments, okay? And this is the other thing is, we've got to pock and pot every judgment we have about this choice and every judgment we bought about this choice, and everywhere we've made other people's format for choice our format. Pock and pot, okay? Run the clearing statement. Say, I let this go, and pock and pot all that shit. And so what I was doing is, in buying the house, I was going totally against what anybody else thinks is even possible. In fact, the homeowners association is like, you can't do that. I'm like, I can't have a second house here. No, you must be occupying the house. I'm like, cool, I'll go live there sometimes then. You know? What are we talking about here, bro? What do you mean? Anyway, so it's the willingness to have the sense of, and I hope everybody also gets this person that I was who was doing the pressure washing business, this person that I was that then we haven't even told the story about finally getting to chiropractic school. Oh my goodness, I will be forever grateful for the choice our grandfather made, but hopefully we'll get to talk about that when we're here. So I just want to point out the difference between that person who, and I think one of the crucial differences between me then and me now is now I can no longer deny that I have choice. No, I have choice. And so I choose. And that's the weird thing. You have choice, so you choose. And to the outside world, you look successful because you're choosing. And well, yeah, it's because I choose. It's like, and what the outside world sees is one hair of what's actually going on. But that, I think, is one of the greatest differences. You're successful when you choose.
Yeah, and I would actually love to go back to you changing that with our grandfather's invitation. Because when I tap into that, I wasn't there for that moment. I've heard you tell it. But it's like I can perceive the weight of the carrying of literally a pressure washing machine on your shoulders being lifted to possibilities. So do you want to share a little bit about that?
Wow. I just realized that was another element of not changing something, but doing something completely different. So when I found out about chiropractic school, and one of the things I do is I do all the research on everything. I get really excited about it. And that's part for me of creating it. My enthusiasm is creating it. And so I was so excited about chiropractic school. Grandpa was in the beginnings of the dying process while I was getting really excited about chiropractic school. And, he had like, geez, I wish I had the money to pay for it, but he didn't. And all kinds of family drama around that. And so what happened was I started the pressure washing business, me in a pressure washing trailer. It's interesting. I can call that a business. So the pressure washing trailer was on my shoulders. So here I am, I'm doing this and I am dying. Like I am so stressed. I'm so unhappy. You pointed out me trying to make my little flyers on the printer back, over 25 years ago, trying to make these flyers on the printer and trying to get my name out to people and all this sort of stuff, and just stressed out in that little room I was living in, big room I was living in. And so I'm doing this pressure washing business. I'm out one night with a friend of mine because I also started working at a car wash. Okay. And I met him because I offered him pressure washing services. And he's like, wow, you're so good. Do you want to work here? I'm like, well, I'll probably make more money working with you than I am on my own. So sure. Plus I'll have less stress. So I was trying to make the money to pay off the pressure washing payment. Right. And I get a call where our uncle says, Dain, Grandpa wants to see you tonight. And I'm like, hey, as as somebody who's not being really present in their world says, hey, how about tomorrow? He goes, no, he needs to see you now. So I left my friend and I came to Grandpa, who's in the middle of our uncle's living room on a bed. And he is breathing like that. He has to labor to breathe. And he looks in my eyes and he says, promise me. And I was like, and then for a minute, I was like, promise me what? But all he said, promise me. And I went, oh my God, because he had shared in my enthusiasm for going to chiropractic school. And he could see the future I was creating was going. I was never going to get there if he didn't make a choice to have this conversation with me. And he says, promise me. And I downloaded what he was talking about, like, promise me you will go to chiropractic school. And I was like, okay, Grandpa, I promise. And I meant it. And I mean, and I stayed there with him for a little while, and he couldn't talk because he couldn't get air in or anything else. And he died a few hours later. Those were the last words he said to anybody on this planet. And I was like, okay, now what? I went the next day and I realized I was missing all these science prerequisites. Here's the thing about choice, though, especially when you're doing it from this place. And I can't emphasize that enough. Not all choices are like that, where you're like, yes, but several of them are. And when we have those, we got to follow those. Those are the choices. And without making it significant, if you are fortunate enough to have something like that in your life, those are the choices that will open up your world to allow the universe to contribute miracles to you along the way. Okay. So I was missing the science prerequisites, and I was like, oh my God, I need chemistry. I need organic chemistry. I need physics. I need biology. I needed however many, like a year of this, a semester of this, whatever. And I'm like, okay, universe, show me a way. That was the only tool I had. Universe, show me a way. And I even prayed, and I was like, dear God, please, really, I need to change directions here. Please help. And I didn't have any other tools or any other support or anything. And so I found a way to do, it was either a semester or I think it was a semester of a class, of a science class in a month. And you would go all weekend for all weekends. And so for the next 6 months of weekends, and it just happened so that physics and OChem and chem and biology did not fight each other. So I could actually go and get this done. And I applied for school to get in, I think it was January of the next year. And I started chiropractic school, and I fucking loved it and hated it, but loved it mostly because I was like, just every day. And I was like, yay, what do I get to do today? What do I get to do today? And it, so this man in his choice, and this is the other thing, is the generosity of spirit of his willingness to know I need to talk to him, and his caring for me. And also, though, I say again, like, he was never a really warm, cuddly fellow, but I always knew that he loved me. Okay. And to see him light up when I got so excited when I was starting to research the chiropractic was just one of the most amazingly beautiful gifts. And to have him be in that place and contribute that to me is still just one of the greatest gifts I've ever received. Crying is a choice.
This is like where this story usually ends, kind of like we kind of tie it with a bow, but I would love to go a little bit further if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Because what I audioed you about today was how, like, even you're talking about, like, when you follow the lightness, that's where the universe can come in and contribute to you. And so pressure washing, okay, not working. But the target of that is chiropractic school. Grandpa comes in and pushes you invites you to a different choice. You go choose that. You end up back in Santa Barbara, following this chiropractic thing, opening your business. And in Santa Barbara is where access consciousness is blooming. And then you end up meeting Gary Douglas Shannon first, trading with Shannon for sessions of bars with your chiropractic skills. And then we end up, you in an office discovering a chiropractic office, discovering ESP on Gary Douglas. And how it's so easy to go, oh, that whole pressure washing thing was the worst choice, I should kick that out. Or chiropractic then became right. But really, it's all of that plays. And so I'm just wondering what you can say to people about like the value of not judging our choices and just getting more of that awareness. And I don't even know if I'm putting into words because you kind of swirled me and fried me, but maybe you can pick up a piece.
Well, it's the lightness and the acknowledgement of your knowing. Yeah. And to a certain extent, when you know, it's like, and so there's that. And what gets in the way of that is all the points of view that we've adopted, ours and everybody else's, and all the idea that there's a right way and it's this way, because then everything else cannot be seen. And what I've noticed a bit of a theme in our conversation today that I hadn't quite acknowledged that dynamically before is that when I'm not creating the future that I'm capable of, I'm suffering. Mm. And so you could look at it from a couple of different ways, but what I realized was with pressure washing, I was suffering. With chiropractic, I was suffering because why did I become a chiropractor? Because of that friggin' book that said we can create miracles. That's why I wanted to. And yet I wasn't creating them. Like, and maybe I was in ways I didn't acknowledge, but it didn't have that. And what's so interesting is looking energetically back at it now. I haven't done this before, and then especially in this way, but looking back at it energetically now, it didn't match that future that I perceived. And so what I thought at the time, once again, access tools change the landscape. It's like this idea of question, the idea of you can pock and pod your points of view and everybody else's, the idea that 98% of your thoughts and feelings and emotions don't belong to you. Like all of these things, they change the landscape so much. And so in looking at this now, the recognition was I was actually aware of this that I actually desired, but because I wasn't creating it, the only point of view I had, the conclusion I came to was I must be wrong again, which I had already known. I knew that from a long time ago. I was told that from the time I was tiny. You're wrong, you're bad. And by the way, for those of you who've ever experienced what I did, which is you're not only wrong and bad, but the reason our family has all of its problems is because of you. If you weren't here, our family wouldn't have its problems. Everything that is, I just want you to all know that is a lie. That is one of the biggest lies you've ever been told. This is one of the biggest lies you've ever been sold, and one of the biggest lies you've ever bought. So everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, call nine, shorts, boys, povets, and beyonds. So I could only come up with the idea that I was wrong and I must not be doing this right. And so I got so unhappy from the time of graduating from chiropractic school to the point where I found access. I got so unhappy that I literally set a date to end my life. Because I figured I would go to chiropractic school, I'd be a chiropractor, I'd be creating miracles, I'd be very successful, and I would like my life, and everything worked. Because I figure if I'm creating miracles in people's lives, my life would be miraculous, but I wasn't creating miracles. My life was not miraculous. I hated myself. I hated everybody else. I was way too aware of everybody's everything and didn't even know what the fuck was going on, and I couldn't handle it anymore. So I set a date to end my life 6 months in the future. But back.
And translators, breathe. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, translators, by the way. So then, I literally, after setting a date to end my life and knowing how I was going to do it, I had a sense of peace. And I had not been happy for the better part of 3 years. Didn't have a sense of peace, didn't have a sense of happiness. And finally I had a sense of peace. And my thought was, yay, I get to get out. I get to end my suffering. And I know that, here's the other thing is I know there's so many people who have greater or lesser degrees of suffering, whether it's financial or all the stuff, right? And I wish I had a bigger magic wand to wave for the whole world. But what I realize is we've got to choose. So the choice I made was to get the flock out of here. And then, of course, as the universe would have it, surprise, you don't get to kill yourself yet. We got something for you to do. Finally, I got to the end. Okay, and here I am suffering because I'm not creating the future I know is possible and being the contribution I would like to be. And I see an ad for Access Consciousness. Access, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. Call Shannon. And I call Shannon and I'm angry, right? I'm in that place of everything is wrong in my life. I hate everybody. You don't have any answers for me. I've tried every friggin' self-help metaphysical piece of shit that exists on the planet. None of it fucking works. So fuck you. What do you have? What a wonderful person to talk to. Must have been great for her. But on the other end, she's like a marshmallow. She's like, well, probably a place to start would be with this thing called the bars. And I was like, okay, fine. What do I have to lose? And I expected it to create no change. And glory fucking hallelujah. Went into it angry, depressed, and suicidal and ready to get the flock out of here. Came out of it an hour and 15 minutes later with a peace and a joy and a gratitude for being alive. And I was like, yes. And I didn't realize that until this moment either, because as you said, I have not gone into this story except to sort of make a point to facilitate people to their awareness in a class. But I realized that energy of bars and how fast I did a complete transformation. It wasn't just a mental transformation where you're like, yeah, and all of this is probably still wrong and all this. It was a complete transformation. And that matched the energy that I knew was possible when I was reading that book in the chiropractor's office. I was like, this! And oh man, to actually experience it, to actually receive for one of the first times in so many years. Oh my goodness. And oh my goodness. Oh, wow. And you know, I know some people hear me and they're like, okay, I'm gonna get my bars on. It's gonna change everything. Don't come to conclusion. Just ask, what will this create? If I do this, what will my life be like in 5 years? And recognize that there are few things any of us can choose that will change everything with one choice. The choice is more like steering your Titanic away from the iceberg and off to the, tropics. It's one choice after choice after choice after choice. So don't put on you that you've got to do it perfectly. You've got to make only this one choice. What tiny choice can I make right now that will head me in the direction of the future I desire?
I love that. And I also, one of the things that with choice and you in particular is your tenacity to follow the energy and keep choosing is such an inspiration, because I'm going to do it again, but the story doesn't stop there, but because you got your bars run. And again, a lot of times on interviews, we tie that with a bow because it's about the gift of the bars and what you'd like to invite everybody to know is possible. But you didn't just then jump from there to here. You packed sandwiches and did trades and all the things you did to get to the next access class to continue following the energy. And it didn't mean that the red carpet was necessarily rolled out because, yay, you got there, but you had to keep choosing. And that's what you continue to do.
Oh, so true. And I wish I could let people know how easy it is and also how challenging it is and also how you just do it. You do it because you do it. You do it because you're still alive. You do it because there are miracles and nobody can take that away. You do it because you're not going to say yes to the people who say you cannot have this and you cannot be this and you cannot create a greater future and you cannot be happy. You do it because you want to. You do it because you know. Yeah. And also with enough of us choosing, this whole world around us that tells us it has to be a particular way, we can collectively say, fuck you. We are creating a world that includes all of us, that is actually about all of us thriving, not just some of us appearing to thrive while others survive. And it sounds like a bit soapboxy, but I hope it doesn't. But it's like, this is the gift that we are. if we recognize the gift of choice, if we just got that, we would be able to know that we could change anything, because we would know that we would continuously choose. And I'm glad, so glad you said that about putting a bow around it, because that's what people want to do. They're like, oh, you got your bars on. Oh, the bars is the answer. Bars is an amazing contribution, but it is not the answer. Access is not the answer. I am not the answer. You are, but it's not an answer. You are the source. And people so want some answer. I know I did. I so wanted some answer outside of me. And the interesting other part about choice that we don't recognize is you hear this conversation and you think that you can somehow understand choice or get choice, so now you can make all the right choices. No, it doesn't work that way. I still choose stupid shit. Less than I used to, because I'm more in the question more of the time, but not all the time. And please do not assume that I am somehow perfect. It's like, and like really, but because I don't have to put that condition on myself anymore, which is something I'm so grateful for, because it's one of the reasons I wanted to end my life, because of that standard of perfection I put on myself. So please don't put that on yourself, and please don't put it on me or Sarah or any other access facilitator, or, well, anybody for that matter. And don't believe the people that tell you and pretend that they are perfect and everything works. And there are certain people that even, here's the thing that I'm really impressed with. I've seen certain people online that are even perfect in their imperfection. Like they perfectly handled how they weren't perfect so perfectly. And I always look at those people, because being very aware energetically, I always know when they're lying about how perfect their imperfect thing was. And it's always so funny to me, because I'm like, it'd be so much easier. You wouldn't have to work nearly as hard if you didn't have to show the world that you were so perfect for whatever reason. And we're not perfect. Yeah. But if you choose and choose and choose and be willing to screw it up, but also it's like, be willing to have fun along the way. And like I said, choice is easy. Choice is really hard. Choice is all of it. And the other thing about choice, the point I was trying to make, was that it's only really in looking at the choices you've made that you can recognize how choice really works, and the path you went on to get here. So one of the things I'd like to give all of you as a home play, a little bit of home play, is to watch you from some point in your life and follow you over 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30, 50, 80 years, whatever it is. And notice how the choices that you made at the time that you didn't even realize were choices put you in a direction, to put you in a place, to get you to something that got you to another thing that then you chose to get to another thing. In other words, look at the path of your life and acknowledge the choices that have been on that path. And then look at that, and then go back and be with that person that was in judgment of their choice or in judgment of the situation, and just be with them in such a way and go ask, what would they need to hear? What would I need to hear? What would my past me need to hear to get out of the judgment of this choice? And what would they need to see as the future that they weren't able to, that would allow them to totally get out of judgment of choice and see that it actually was something that created more?
Yeah. I love that. And you're kind of tipping on what I wanted to kind of wrap up with a little bit today, was that, you know, we have the bars class and access, and that gives you the possibility of even asking a question. And then we go to foundation, and the foundation class gives you an awareness of like going beyond right and wrong and looking from a different place. And then I know, like, my first, what used to be called COP, or level 2, 3, I guess back then, but my first CFP, it was like finally getting a little trickle of the awareness that I'm still getting of what it looks like to choose from following the energy.
Yeah.
And so if you could give us a little bit about that. You have a CFP coming up. So if anybody's really excited about that, and you could get bars and foundation theoretically in time. But if you have a foundation and you're excited about this conversation and would love to explore it, what can we look forward to in your CFP, Dain? Not with any like expectation or plan. There's no like structure of the class, but that awareness of like, or even awareness you had about when you started to really know that following the energy is what lights up your choice.
Let's talk about that, because in CFP is choice for possibilities. That's the name. CFP is a acronym. Okay.
Yeah.
But this idea of that's why I say, like, you know, when I'm on something like this, it's like, I'm like, okay, but I want to handle this and this and this. Like, I want to change what doesn't allow you to actually be present with choice. Well, in the class, I actually get to do that, because that's why we have the class, basically. And so the idea of choosing from following the energy, it starts actually with getting to a level of trust in you and your awareness, which is something that a lot of people are walking around not trusting themselves. And I totally understand that. I was in a very similar boat. And there are places where I'm still not sure I trust me, but at this point I choose anyway. I've got a track record of not dying from my choices so far. So I figure at the very least, I'll still be alive. Oh, goodness. So the trust in us it's not an absolute thing. Like, it's not a conclusionary point of view. It's not a box. It's not a fixed thing. What it is sort of a quiet sense of, I'm okay and I can be okay trusting my choices. And it's really not something you would even recognize, because when you trust you don't talk about it. You just seem to have an ease in flowing through the world that other people tend to envy. And they don't tend to, you know, they're trying to define it and figure it out, when in actuality, you can't even put it into words. You're like, I don't know, I'm willing to choose. And when you trust you can choose, and it's okay if you screw it up. It's when you don't trust you, and when you've learned to not trust you, and when you've learned to, like you said, in foundation, you get over so much of the right and wrong, good and bad point of view of everything, because we don't realize we are conditioned to look for only that which is right, reject that which is wrong. But both of those are judgments. And in that, we reject all kinds of things that could contribute to us. And we won't choose to be all kinds of things that could contribute to us. And so as that starts melting, one of the beautiful things is being with people where their foundation of judgment is cracking and melting. And what happens is there's a light behind the eyes, or energy, if you will, where rather than you saying, hey, you can choose anything, and they go, no, I can't. And let me tell you why, because I'm 48 years old and I made this choice and this choice and this choice, and this was bad and this was wrong. And from the time I was a little kid, I had blah, blah, blah. That story is shortcut a lot. And so now I say, hey, you can choose. And they go, oh, rather than rejecting it because it doesn't match their judgment and their presumption of the way reality should be. Now they go, really? Oh, really? I'm like, yeah. And then I go, okay, so, and I walk them through energetically, like, here it is. Now, how's that in your world? And the beauty of it is they get to follow the path of their knowing, their actual knowing beyond the judgment, to their knowing, and to the knowing that they know more than they know that they know, or knew that they know. Sorry, translators, that they now get to know that they know. And here's the beautiful thing about this, okay? And there's so many beautiful things about it. But in the beauty of CFP, especially for me, is that idea that you can give a person a fish and they will eat for a night. If you teach them to fish, they'll fucking feed themselves for the rest of their lives. And this is what this is about. It's learning to choose, and not even learning. It's more like getting rid of all the stupid shit in our way that doesn't allow us to know what choice is, to perceive it, to receive it, and actually to be it, and actually get to choose. And what's funny is it has no significance. You know, like being able to choose has no significance. You just have freedom. And that is an amazing space from which to function.
I don't know if I have more words other than a ton of gratitude for you personally, for all the places and ways you have been that for me, and that energetic invitation to stop judging the shit out of myself and create a life I actually want to be a part of. um, and yeah, Dane, I think I'm fried. So if you have something else you would like to add here, we can end on that, or we can end on that beautiful description of choice you just gave us.
No, I would like to thank you for being here for this conversation and for all of the reminders, and we were audioing back and forth this morning, and I was just brought to tears to have somebody who cared about me so much as my little sister, to be there loving me through all of the things that I was going through when I didn't love myself. And you still do. And I'm so grateful, because having one person who gets you can make the difference. That may be what keeps some of us here, and I just want to acknowledge that and acknowledge you and thank you for that. And thank you for always, to the best of your ability, having my back, and for this conversation that allowed us to hopefully contribute to a lot of people. And I thank you all also for watching, and also thank you, translators. And I'm still talking so my sister doesn't have to again. So we will see you soon somewhere, and I look forward to giving you all a big hug somewhere, someday. Mwah.
Bye, you guys.